It's been quite a while since I did ribs in my electric smoker. Well, that's going to change because I'm going to be making some hickory smoked St. Louis spare ribs in the electric smoker. Yeah, it's been quite a while since I did ribs in the electric smoker, and that electric smoker was the first smoker that I ever had. So I'm feeling a little nostalgic and want to do some ribs in that electric smoker today. But first, we got to get our rub ready. Simple rub, I've done this many times. We're going to start with half a cup of brown sugar, 2 teaspoons of granulated garlic, 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of ground black pepper, and 1 teaspoon of paprika. Just want to take a fork and sort of pre-mix this here. Make sure any of the big clumps of the brown sugar get broken up before we put the lid on and shake this. Just get our lid on and shake. That's exactly what we're looking for. Let's get the ribs out here. So the ribs we're working with today, as I mentioned, are a St. Louis cut. It's a small 3-pound rack here. First thing I want to do is I want to get the membrane off the back side. I just like to get under there with a knife, lift it up, get a finger under there. You can use a paper towel if you can't get a good grip. Sometimes it'll pull off all in one motion, sometimes it won't. If it takes you a while to get a membrane off ribs, do not worry about it. Doesn't matter. Some people can do it just like whoosh, comes right off. Doesn't always work that way. So 2 things I'm going to do now is I just want to get the sort of the leftover skirt here that's sometimes left when you're trimming these down from full spare ribs. Any loose pieces that are going to be in the way, any big pieces of fat. Now the other thing I'm going to do, because this is going to be smoked in the electric smoker, is the electric smoker has just like a little bit of width here. This almost would fit, but not quite. And usually when I do ribs in the electric smoker, I just cut them into half racks. That's what I'm going to do here. Just have nice scissors. Any last little bits you want to trim off, go ahead. Now we're going to go ahead and get our rub on. Get a good coating on here. Be really generous with this rub. I love sweet rubs like this with hickory smoke. Hickory is my favorite wood to use with pork ribs. Pecan works really well too, but I really like hickory. Yes, I could put the rub in a shaker. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Today I've got a spoon and a bowl. If I get any of those ends you can here. Last little dusting on top here. All right, that's looking good. This split rack of St. Louis ribs is now going to go in a Ziploc bag in the refrigerator overnight, really absorb all these flavors. Tomorrow we're going to get it out on the Char-Broil Electric with some hickory wood chips for some great smoke and some great ribs. All right, our ribs have been soaking in that rub overnight. The Masterbuilt Electric's up to temp with our hickory wood chips in the wood box. Let's go ahead and get these St. Louis cut spare ribs on. I'm going to be using the 2 middle racks today. My upper rack has the temperature probe for the ThermoWorks smoke. We're just running an ambient temperature probe today. And we're going bone side down. All right, let's get the Char-Broil Electric closed up and get smoking. So our St. Louis ribs are going to take somewhere around 5 hours today. It's going to be based on tenderness like always with ribs. After about 2 hours, I'm going to check it for tenderness, see the flex, and decide if we need to wrap these at that point. I probably will be wrapping them. We'll also check to see if we need to spritz them if they need any moisture. The Char-Broil Electric smoker is set at 225 degrees today. I won't be adding any more hickory chips. That first load of chips will probably last about 1.5 hours to 2 hours, and that's plenty of smoke for these ribs. Later on, near the end of the cooking process, we're going to be glazing these with some just simple barbecue sauce. This is really a throwback to how I used to do ribs when I first started smoking. The electric smoker was my first smoker. So most of what I'm doing here today is how I've done it in the electric smoker for a long time, with some changes for things I've learned, such as the small water pan in the Char-Broil Electric. I only have it about a quarter full. I find it doesn't need a lot of moisture in there. That's usually enough. So I'll bring you back here in a couple hours. It's time to check these ribs. All right, our ribs have been going for just over 2 hours. Let's have a look. Ah, those are looking good. Nice color developing on them. Just starting to get some pullback on the bone. And what I want to see is just the initial tenderness here. When they're half racks like this, it's hard to do a flex test, so I'm just gonna do a probe test. And, you know, they're a good amount of resistance still. I know they've still got time to go, but at this point, I am going to wrap them. We're gonna take them off here, get them into a foil pan with a little bit of moisture, let them go for probably an hour and a half to 2 hours that way. So the moisture I'm gonna be adding to these ribs here in our foil pan is a 2-to-1 mixture of water and apple cider vinegar. 2 parts water, 1 part apple cider vinegar. And because they're overlapping a little, just want to lift this up, get some under there. Now I'm going to seal this up with a single layer of foil. All right, we're going to get this back in the smoker. We're going to put this on our second rack from the bottom. Close it up. We're going to go for about 90 minutes before we check it. All right, our ribs have been in the foil pan for about 90 minutes now. It's time to get them out of there, get them sauced, and get them back on to finish up. You can see the pullback we have now away from the bones, which is exactly what we're looking for. So we're going to go ahead and sauce these up before the flies get to them. This is just a store-bought barbecue sauce, nothing special, which I've thinned out with 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Go ahead and get this first rack back on, and get this one glazed. With this much pullback and this much tenderness, it's only going to be about 20 minutes before these are done. And we lost a bone. That's how tender they are. All right, we're going to get the smoker closed up, let these go for about 20 minutes, and they're going to be done. These are already tender. I just want to give that glaze a little bit of time to set. All right, we've been going 20 minutes here with our sauce on our ribs. 99.99% sure they're done. Oh yeah, terrific pullback from the bones. We actually saw one bone fall out when we were transferring these back to the racks here. These are done. I'm gonna get them inside, let them rest for about 10 minutes, and then we're gonna have a taste. All right, here is half of that rack of St. Louis spare ribs that we smoked with Hickory in the Char-Broil Electric smoker. These really take me back to those first ribs that I was smoking, 15 or so years ago on that electric smoker. Total time on this was about 5 hours, I believe, so really good results for that amount of time. So let's just cut in here. I think I can follow the bone from this side. I can see it pretty clearly. And I'm just gonna try and go here so we can get a full rib. Ah, there we go. Hey, looks good. Nice and juicy. Whenever there's this much pullback that I see on a rack of pork spare ribs, I'm always a little concerned that they're gonna fall off the bone tender. And I've mentioned many times, I don't really like that. I like there to be enough of a bite. And I think this is kind of on the edge there. You know, some of these may be a little fall off the bone, but I think in this one, it looks like we have some structure still in that pork. So this is the one I'm going for. It's time to taste. I'm just gonna do it right here. So let's go to it. I've said it before, hickory is my favorite wood to use when smoking ribs. There's just something about it, especially when you have a great glaze at the end. There's just that layer upon a layer of complementary flavors, the sauce over that hickory smoke with the great rub. It just works so well. If it gets on your face, so what? This is what I'm talking about here. Pull away from the bone without falling off the bone. Super tender, super juicy. Great flavor from that simple rub with a simple barbecue sauce added on top. You don't always have to get fancy and use commercial rubs. You can make your own, and sometimes simple is just great. So if you're starting out, especially with an electric smoker like I did, you don't have to have a lot of extra stuff. You can use seasonings and spices that you have just in your kitchen. Salt, pepper, garlic powder, paprika, some brown sugar. Those all add up to a great rub and great ribs. So if you're starting out on an electric smoker, or maybe you've got one that you haven't used in a while, it's sitting in the garage, pull it out, throw some ribs on it. And I gotta tell you, you can still get great results with that electric smoker. That is a terrific rib.